Welcome to the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast. I'm Joy Taylor. You can catch us Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific on FS1. Here's what this podcast is all about. It's an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the day's show, and there is a lot to get into in today's podcast. Shannon claims Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and Drew Brees still get calls that Cam Newton never gets. Skip tells you why he is so proud of what happened Sunday with Dak because of what happened with Tony Romo and Jerry Jones on Saturday. The guys have a fiery debate with Rob Parker and Eric Mangini over Aaron Rodgers' MVP chances. Plus, FS1 NFL analyst Chris Carter joins the debate to share his thoughts on if it's time for Washington to pay Kirk Cousins and would Odell Beckham be fined if he did a kettle drum. Let's debate. The second quarter last night, Cam Newton was hit while sliding. It was not called a penalty, but Cam received a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for flipping the ball at Redskin Trent Murphy. Referee Walt Coleman said he, quote, didn't see any forcible contact with the head. After the game, Cam talked about the penalty. Let's take a listen.
I got to be better than that. That just can't happen on my part. You know, I just have to let the referees, you know, do their job. And I thought it was a questionable hit, but yeah, I can't. You know, I can't throw the ball at a person. I know that's against the rules too. So I'm not going to beat the dead horse, man. So I just can't I can't retaliate in that way. I'm better than that. I know I am, and you know, I can't jeopardize that type of play for my team.
Skip, should a penalty have been called?
No, it should not have. But I must admit, when I first saw this play live, I immediately said, that's 15 yards. And then, of course, Cam threw the ball at Trent Murphy, and I immediately thought, oh, my God, because I was rooting for Cam against the Redskins. I thought Cam just canceled a 15-yard penalty with one of his own, and I was surprised to find out that Cam had the only 15-yard penalty that was called on the play until I saw the third or fourth replay. And I realized that one Trent Murphy of the Redskins actually did fly right over the top of Cam's helmet. It's possible that teeny tiny part
did
of
he
his
or
helmet,
did he not? Did he or did he not make contact with Cam's helmet?
He might have skimmed the top of it, but there was not significant enough contact that I would have thrown a flag on that play.
So now it's significant. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about, as Walt Coleman said, forcible contact. When I read Walt's quote, I thought he was exactly right. He said, when I saw that what I saw was that Cam slid late and the defender went over the top, and I didn't see any forcible contact to the head. I did not either. But I'll be the first to tell you, we have all been conditioned to think that Cam is not protected enough by the referees.
He isn't.
That too many times he doesn't get the call that he deserves because he's treated more like a runner than a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I think in this case, we all leaped to the conclusion, oh, that's 15 yards, when in fact we were seeing ghosts because we wanted to see a ghost in this case. In this case, I think that Trent Murphy barely skimmed the top of Cam's helmet. And again, if it had been any other quarterback, there's no way I would have thrown a flag on that. And again, it took me about 4 replays to see it, and I'm very surprised and very pleased for Walt Coleman that they got it right on contact as they watched it live right before their very eyes. That was a hard play to call, and they called it correctly. No forcible contact, no significant helmet to helmet.
If somebody hits, if that was Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, do they get that call? Yes or no?
No.
Absolutely, that flag should have been thrown. And the referees, and I've heard everybody say, Cam says, I can't get protection in the pocket. We've seen Cam in the Rams game get a guy launches himself, goes helmet to helmet with Cam in the pocket. No flag.
I agree.
We see Calais Campbell hit Cam Newton in his knee. No flag.
Awful.
Cam cannot get protected in the pocket.
Correct.
Okay, Cam leaves the pocket. They say, Cam, once you leave the pocket, you're no longer viewed as a quarterback. If you want protection, you need to get down. Cam Newton says, okay, I hear you loud and clear because I do not want to be in concussion protocol ever again. Cam slides. Now he can't get a call. He skimmed the top of his head. Where's the flag? Where does the flag says if you skim the guy's helmet, it's not a flag if you make contact with his helmet?
That's not a flag.
Oh,
that's referee's discretion. That's not forcible contact helmet to helmet.
Cam
Cam did start his slide a little late.
I did skip. You gonna let me speak, or you just gonna interrupt every statement I
No,
make?
you keep asking me a question, and then I'm going to answer
I'm
it.
asking
I mean, what is this?
I'm gonna give
Do
you,
I answer or not?
I'm gonna give you an
Somebody help
opportunity.
me out
I'm
here.
gonna
I
give
don't
you-
know.
I'm going to.
I mean, I really don't. Help me out. Tell me when.
I will give you an opportunity to rebut, just like you
So
gave
you're
giving
just
me.
asking rhetorical questions that I'm not supposed to answer?
Jot them down in your mind, and then when it's your turn to speak again, you can have at it.
Okay, let me write this down.
Okay.
Jot it
Cam,
down.
in
Okay,
2016, Cam has gotten 2 unnecessary roughness penalties. Kirk Cousins and Drew Brees has gotten 6. But this is what's going to trip you out, Joy, since me and you just talking right now. Sam Bradford. Whoa, Skip! Sam Bradford, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Joe Flacco, Dak Prescott have all gotten 5. I'm waiting. Now, I went through the rule book last night, and I didn't see anywhere where they said we won't throw a flag if the person is big, if he's strong, if he's hard to officiate.
I agree.
Because they use that as Cam's argument. He's like the Shaq. You know, it was so hard to call Shaq. If you chop Shaq on the arm, and if you chop Steph Curry on the arm, a flag should be called. If you make contact with Cam Newton's helmet, a flag should be thrown if he's giving himself up. So now what is it? He can't give himself up and get a penalty. He can't get protected in the pocket because he's so tough, man. He might run. This is a bunch of malarkey, and the NFL need to be ashamed of themselves because they treat him. He does not get the treatment of another quarterback, let alone an MVP, no matter what you think of him. Maybe he's petty. Maybe he whines. You don't like his outfit. But at the end of the day, he should be afforded the same protections in the pocket that Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady get. And once he gives himself up, he should be afforded the same protection as any other quarterback. The floor is now yours, Mr. Bayless.
I completely agree with everything you just said, but just because he didn't get all those other calls in the pocket does not mean that he suddenly deserves one that he doesn't deserve on this play, because that was not helmet to helmet. That was not a flag.
It doesn't have to be helmet to helmet.
Yes,
Skip.
it does.
You can't make
He skimmed up. There was no contact. Trent Murphy did a great job of completely missing. He airballed. He went right over the top.
Hold on now. Just 3 minutes ago, you said he skimmed it. Now you said
there might have been
tiny
ain't no might have been.
I don't do.
Late slide.
Skip.
Do I get to talk or not?
No, you don't get to talk.
Okay.
You interrupted
so wait,
me.
you give me the floor and then you seize it back.
I'm taking it back.
Oh, well,
Go ahead,
I can't
Skip.
help it.
You know what? Go
this
ahead,
was
Skip.
not a flag. You know this wasn't a flag, but I'm with you on all the other ones. You've been conditioned to think he doesn't get protected, and I said that in my first answer. That's what's happened here. You saw a ghost. You said, "Oh my God, you can't do that to my guy Cam here." And you can do it when it's legal. That was a legal non-hit by Trent Murphy. That's all it was. Period. End of story. All those other ones should have been called. You're right.
You argue he skimmed his helmet, then he didn't skim his helmet, and am I supposed to believe Skip Bayless or my lying eyes?
Well, one thing I think we can all agree on is that pink hat is fabulous. Right?
Oh, Cam dress. I got that jacket.
No mercy. Tony Romo has been Dak Prescott's backup for the last 5 games, but he was with Jerry Jones in the owner's box to watch Jerry's grandson play in a high school championship game over the weekend in Dallas. Jones said Tony doesn't have to lobby anybody, especially me, about anything. He really doesn't. So it was as pure as it looked. He was there to firsthand see and frankly be a part of potential success. Now, we all know that his team didn't have to win that game, and so I'm sure Tony wanted to be there to kind of give a pat on the back if it went the other way. Skip, does Jerry have a point?
As you know, I've spent a lot of time in my time around Jerry Jones, so I know what I'm speaking of here. As often is the case, Jerry is missing the point, which has become an exclamation point for the Dallas Cowboys. Yes, Jerry, it was as pure as it looked, and that is the problem. No doubt, Tony Romo has helped Jerry's grandson since Jerry's grandson started playing quarterback in Pop Warner. He's been a mentor. He's been a coach. He's been hands-on with this kid and given this kid expertise and training that maybe very few kids get.
Correct.
Because Tony Romo will make a good coach someday if he so chooses. He'll make a good analyst someday if he so chooses. And this became a, so to speak, pet project for him to bring this kid up to fruition as a junior in high school for him to win a state championship for the Highland Park Scots. And there's no doubt that he has been there every step of the way with John Stephen Jones, the son of Stephen Jones, who is Jerry's son. That's now become the biggest problem, because Tony has become part of the Jerry Jones family. And this has been going on since Tony got there in 2004. So now a kid who is not part of Jerry's family, named Dak Prescott, has come in, fallen out of heaven into Jerry's lap, and has turned the Cowboys, to my mind, into the best team in the NFC. He's given them the best record in pro football while Tony Romo has been hurt. And now that Tony has been healthy over the last 5 games, Jerry Jones will not back off because he can't help himself. He actually just speaks his heart to the media. And his heart is, as he told us 3 weeks ago, that he would regret it if this team goes on a Super Bowl run and Tony Romo is not part of that run, because Tony is part of Jerry's family. And then last week, he suggested once again, after the loss in New York, that it's very possible that Tony Romo will soon replace Dak Prescott if Dak continues to struggle. I'll know it when I see it, said Jerry Jones, heaping even more pressure on a kid before the biggest game of the kid's life against Tampa at Jerry World on Sunday night football stage, when this was make it or break it for this Cowboy team. I told you last week they needed to win this game, because if they continue to slide, struggle at Minnesota, but win, lose at New York, and then lose to Tampa, that's not the way to go in December. So the weight of the Cowboy world was on Dak Prescott's shoulder pads on Sunday night. And what happened on Saturday, and I went off on Twitter on Saturday afternoon when I first saw the picture of this, but Jerry Jones invited Tony Romo to again sit next to him in his box, the owner's box, at Jerry World as the Highland Park Scots played the state championship game. It's just such a bad look, because it is so glaringly, painfully disrespectful to your rookie quarterback who's about to face on the very same stage the biggest test of his life. Way to go, Jerry. And you can't see the problem with that? Yeah. It's just such a bad look for the Cowboys. And I loved it that, and by the way, well, could you at least have just asked Tony to sit in any of the other empty boxes? Because I promise you a bunch of them were empty, even though they had, 35,000 people there for a high school football game. There are plenty of box seats available for Tony and his family if you so choose, because you could just pay a little respect to your starting quarterback, Dak Prescott. It just looked so bad to me, and yet I loved it so much that Dak Prescott went out on Sunday night and made Jerry eat every word he has spoken over the last 3 weeks. 32 of 36. Thank you very much. Take that, Jerry Jones. And as Dak Prescott says in his new ad for, Champ Sports, I dare you to doubt me. And that's basically what he was saying to Jerry Jones. I dare you to doubt. Just go ahead and doubt me. And Jerry has doubted and doubted and doubted and ate his words on Sunday night. And I hope he continues to eat his words. And I hope he continues to take Tony along for the ride with him, because it is sickening to me how he has mistreated the rookie quarterback that's given Jerry his best chance to win a Super Bowl since 1995. Thank you very much.
Jerry is absolutely wrong in this instance. There are plenty owners that I'm sure have a relationship. And I'm going to ask you, and I want you to answer this immediately, Skip.
Oh, thank you.
Do you think Jerry Jones loved Tony Romo any more than Mr. Kraft loved Tom Brady?
I don't know that for a fact, but I can't imagine that he does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mr. Bolin, our owner of the Denver Broncos, John Elway, were in the car business dealership together. They ended up, Mr. Bolin got out, John went about his merry way. We know how successful he was in that. But you never saw them out in public. How many times Joe Montana and Mr. DeBartolo were very, very close.
They were, yep.
How many times did you see them out in public? What makes this so egregious to me is that he's looking at Tony Romo as the starter. Tony Romo's the backup. How many owners carouse with the backup quarterback. Come on, Jerry. You know how this is going to look. What makes it look so bad and why people question this is because every time they were asking you a question about Dak, somehow you found a way to finagle Tony Romo's name into the discussion. Even though Dak was going on unprecedented runs, he was winning a game in overtime, he was coming from behind in Pittsburgh, whatever he did, you mentioned how good Tony Romo looked in practice, how you couldn't wait for Tony to get back. If you saw the way he looked in practice, the way he was lighting up that defense, oh, that's the old Tony Romo of old. So every time they ask you to praise Dak, somehow you patted Dak on the back, but you praised Tony Romo and what he's been to your organization. That's why people are so like, wow. And it wasn't, think about this, Skip, as great as Dak was playing, and there were stretches he played great. As great as he was playing, he never unequivocally, as he did once he got called to the carpet by one, Troy Aikman, because you know, in Dallas, two players carry more weight in Dallas than Jerry Jones. That's Roger Staubach, who also played quarterback, who also won a Super Bowl, and Troy Aikman. Their words are like the gospel in Dallas. So he's like, Troy said, I can't understand it. Here's a guy that's 11-1, he's playing his butt off, and somehow you still talking about Tony Romo. It was then and only then, because prior to that, he had no filter. Anytime you ask him something about Dak, oh, but Tony Romo, boy, if you see Tony in practice, oh, he looks like the Tony of old. And it would be a disappointment if we went on this run without Tony. So now you can see why people say, hold on. First of all, he's a backup. He's the backup quarterback. What he was and what he used to be, he's not that currently. Dak is the guy that's leading your team to a 12-2 record. Well, at the time they were, 11-2, but now they're 12-2. That's Dak. But you somehow you constantly praising Tony. And so the optics of that looks terrible. I have yet to see, and I'm sure Mr. Kraft had an infatuation for Drew Brees. But he wasn't hanging with Drew Brees when he lost his job. He wasn't hanging with him before. And I know Mr. Kraft. He said it out of his own mouth. Tom Brady is like a son to me. Now, I get that Tony was watching his nephew, because, Jerry has two biological sons and a daughter, but he adopted Tony Romo Jones, so that's really his third son. So Tony was watching his nephew. The optics of this looks terrible, because what kind of message, because Dak prepares, and he says, you know what, I got to be careful of this defensive end because I might get sacked. I got to be careful of this blitz because I might get hit in the back of my head. But he also has to be mindful because he might get sacked by the very owner who he's winning game and putting him in position to win another Super Bowl. And that's pressure that he doesn't need, he doesn't deserve to have put on him. And Jerry said it, I'm making him tough. It shows what he's made of. Stop it, Jerry. That's not what you're doing. You are hoping against, and you don't like to bet against yourself. You know what I'm saying, Skip? You roll dice, you don't put on the come and the pass line. You don't bet 2 and 4, so that way if you crack 7 out, you lose your money, but you get to collect over here because you rolled a 7. That's not how you do it. I'm not saying that Jerry is disappointed that Dak is doing this, but if this was Tony Romo that was doing this, I guarantee you Jerry do a handstand. And Jerry probably about 74 years old, he'd do a backwards flip.
Jerry can say some dumb things occasionally, but trust me on this. He ain't stupid.
No!
He ain't stupid. He knows what he's doing. And to me, and this may be going one step too far, but this is just me from a distance, it felt Saturday like he knew exactly what he was doing to invite Tony to sit beside him at the right hand of Jerry Jones.
Isn't that where Steven normally sits?
Yeah. Or, Steven to the right, I guess so.
Is it right or the left?
Maybe Steven's to the
left.
I can't remember.
It
doesn't matter.
But
whatever. It doesn't matter because he's sitting there. Jerry knows it's televised live in the state of Texas, at least in Dallas-Fort Worth area. So he knows this is going to get on TV and out on social media. And to me, deep down, he has been rooting against Dak Prescott because Jerry believes deep down, and he's made it pretty clear, that he thinks their best chance to win this year's Super Bowl would be with Tony Romo back at quarterback. So to me, it came across as a subtle attempt to further undermine Dak's confidence on the Saturday before the biggest game of Dak's life on Sunday night. And it didn't work, Jerry. Thank you very much.
The heart wants what it wants. Jerry can't help himself.
No.
He truly can't. No mercy. Ezekiel Elliott received a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for jumping in the Salvation Army kettle after scoring on Sunday, but he won't be fined for the celebration. That news didn't sit well with Odell Beckham Jr., who has been fined 5 times this season. Odell tweeted, "That's funny, there's no fine for that. I could only imagine if I was the one to do it, just being honest." We're joined by NFL Hall of Famer and FS1 NFL analyst Chris Carter. Welcome, Chris.
Good morning.
Good morning,
CC.
Do you agree with
We already
Odell?
had our debate off there.
Oh, goodness gracious.
It gets hype in the
Well,
break.
let's just do it now.
No,
do it
no.
again.
We'll do it another day and time.
I know you have to be neutral, but they're going to put me a chair on this side. 'Cause this guy right here.
It's good. Do you agree with Odell?
Well, this is the thing I know about Odell. Through many conversations over the last couple years, him and I talking, him reaching out to me, we've discussed things like this. And the thing that I've tried to relay to him is, you've already been to the principal's office a number of times, okay? So next time you go to the principal's office, there's pretty much going to be guilt by association. So there's a different set of rules based on the visibility you planned in New York and some of the other things that you've done. So you have to be more careful than anyone else. Is he correct? Yes. And the reason why is because he's put himself in harm's way. He's done a number of things that he's totally gone out of his way, either to celebrate on the sideline. I think Ezekiel, it was more of a natural reaction to the kettle was there. And what a Christmas gift. The Dallas Cowboys.
It wasn't a natural reaction.
Okay,
Because he said he saw the kettle before the game. And if he scored in the end zone in which the kettle was in, he was going to do it. Did he not say that?
He asked Dak about it. He said, "Do you think I should do it?" And Dak was like, I don't know. And he said, "I think I'm going to try."
Hold on. So that's not natural because he planned it.
Okay.
That's
now listen.
premeditation.
Okay, so is it still fair that he got fined? I think that the NFL, they finally realized from a PR standpoint, let's not fine the kid, okay? Is there a double standard in life? Just like it is all the time.
Say it.
Yes, there is. So Odell, if he had this, they probably would have fined him and put a little extra on top of it. I thought it was more of a natural reaction, even though you see something before the game. I know I've seen plenty of things before the game. I saw when I went to Denver, I saw the lady in the horse. I said, man, I want to get on that horse, but I couldn't.
But boy, I tell you what, you'd have been sorry because I'm telling you, Thunder did not play. He almost bit me one time, and
Really? If he'd gotten on the horse, would you have tackled?
No.
Yeah.
I already know what's going to happen. It wouldn't end well.
But I'm saying that's like T.O. running the
Yeah, I'd have to
star,
get you. You
right?
can't bother Thunder.
Yeah.
After I got done with you guys, I was,
There we go.
I was going to ride the horse.
That's right. Touche.
Absolutely, Odell is right on the money. And the NFL has bylaws, and they passed this, and they said during celebrations, players are not allowed to use props.
Yes.
Okay. During celebrations, you're not allowed to use a prop. Now, we saw Antonio Brown run into the end zone, grab the goalpost, and slide down like a fireman. He was fined because they deemed that as a prop. Now, the NFL is a very reactionary league because once Ezekiel jumped in the kettle, look at your timeline, Skip. I know you don't follow anybody. Look at your timeline. The NFL better not find Ezekiel. That's the Salvation Army. That's a charity. So the NFL saw all the reaction and what it meant. Mm-hmm. So they said, we're not going to fine you. Odell Beckham, Victor Cruz Jr. wore 9/11 themed cleats. Mm-hmm. The NFL said you could only wear the themed cleats for week 13. Mm-hmm. They did not fine them. DeAndre Hopkins wore Yeezys. He was fined. You see where this is going, Skip? This is why this is bad for the league because you're setting a dangerous, dangerous precedent. We saw last year, and you can remember this, D'Angelo Williams has lost his mom and 3 aunts to breast cancer. He petitioned Commissioner Goodell and the NFL, can I wear pink for the rest of the year? The NFL said, no, you can't wear pink. And if you do, we're going to fine you. First of all, they wouldn't let him on the field, but they said, if you got him on the field, we would fine you. Now, here's a guy that has a very personal relationship with this awful and deadly disease. The NFL told him no. Ezekiel Elliott jumps into a Salvation Army kettle. If I'm not mistaken, Jerry Jones' wife is on the board of the Salvation Army. That big kettle was right there in plain view for everybody to see. So instead of abiding by your very rules that you said nothing was to be used as a prop, you turned a blind eye. And then you wonder why the players, the 1,700 players, are up in arms when they say you show favoritism, you do double standards. We also saw this, Skip, and then I'm going to let you have the floor. We saw this with Josh Brown. When they passed the new law about when Ray Rice did what he did, they said if you get domestic violence, it's automatic 5 games. It can go up or down.
Yes.
Contingent on the mitigating circumstances. So this is what you said. You said 5 games is a minimum. It can go up and down once we get the mitigating circumstances. But what happened, Skip? They tried to sweep it up under the rug, and when the clamor got so loud it was deafening, they stepped in. See, this is what the fans see. This is what the players see. You don't have any policy. You are reactionary in your punishment and your deeds.
I hate to put the Josh Brown issue in this issue, but I get you.
Yes.
I know where you're going.
Yes.
Okay.
Inconsistency.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, let's do the hypothetical. Let's say the Salvation Army was the official charity of the New York Football Giants. And let's say that every year through the holiday period, they put the big kettle at the back of one of the end zones, and it had been there since Cowboys 1993. So these many years, it's there for the whole holiday period through Christmas time. And let's say that Odell, with his track record, which as you point out, he's got one and it continues to grow this year. He's been fined 9 times in his career and 5 times this year. I'll run through them in just a second. But let's just say, hypothetically, Odell, it just dawned on him. He caught a big touchdown pass and he glanced and he thought, bam, because he's a creative, clever kid, you know? And all of a sudden, he goes and jumps in the Salvation Army kettle. Do you think the league would then fine Odell for jumping in that kettle? And let's throw this hypothetical on, because last week Ezekiel actually made an appearance for Salvation Army in Dallas.
Yes.
So let's say Odell had made an appearance for Salvation Army. Could he get away with jumping in that kettle? Hypothetically, I'm going to say yes, because the NFL images everything. You know this and I know this. It's protect the shield. It's polish the shield. It's do nothing that could detract from the shield, because the shield is all about tarnish the shield. Yeah, it's all about charity. We're arm in arm with all the best charities, right?
Right.
Okay, I'm pretty sure Odell could get away with that because they would cringe at the thought of fining a charitable action. It's just, it has a mitigating factor to it, which is why Ezekiel got away with this one, and Ezekiel had no track record. He does this, but he's only been doing it after he makes a big first down after a big run. Most of the time, when he scores, he hands the ball to the official. This is a first, okay? And again, just this year, Odell has been fined for excessive celebration in Dallas opening day, a late hit, an unsportsmanlike, another unsportsmanlike, and verbal abuse and excessive profanity directed toward an official. No good, because you're reaping what you sowed, right? You're asking for it because you're going to be on the thinnest of ice with the officials already. So if you do anything that's even one toe over the limit of what they think is excessive celebration, they're going to throw another flag and you're going to get another fine. Okay, I get that. But the mitigating factor here was Salvation Army kettle. And no, it wasn't a prop that he took with him into the end zone. It's always there. Just like the stands are always there in Lambeau Field, and you can use them as a prop if you so choose. That got grandfathered in somehow. You can jump over the prop that is the stands into the fans who become your props, right? They do at Lambeau Field.
But Ezekiel asked Dak, do you think I should jump in that, if I score in that end zone, should I jump in the kettle? Leroy Butler had no idea that Reggie White was going to scoop up a fumble and was going to pitch it back to him.
That was a natural act.
It was. And that's why they grandfathered it in, because they knew he had no idea that's what he was going to do.
Listen, when you have things like this in the end zone, if the kettle was in Jacksonville or Cleveland, I wonder what the NFL would do if someone jumped in it. Because I know there's over 20 million people watching the Sunday night game.
Yes.
And I think that had something to do.
Absolutely.
And
You're
I
probably
think,
right.
I know they believe in charity, but a lot of that charity comes out the players' pockets.
It does.
I mean,
Define money.
every game, you got someone policing my socks. You got wristbands not the right color. Your shoestrings.
Your jersey couldn't be untucked back in the day.
Like, I mean, they have just gone so far that I can see why fans on Sunday, am I going to watch NFL or am I going to watch something else? Because that's one thing about the National Football League. The quality of play, it has been high, but it has been very entertaining through the years. And if you take that entertainment away from the players, I believe it suffers in the product, and I believe that's what we saw in 2016, not only with the election, with the lack of people watching the game, because it is a lot less fun than when we play.
So now, if a guy says, you know what, Dads for Diabetes, you know, guys have their charitable foundation, they go get their banner and they wrap themselves in it. What is the NFL going to do then?
That's a problem.
Because here's the thing. You know when I got my first fine, Skip? You know what I got it for? When I did something the NFL deemed inappropriate. If you put this in the guidelines and you says I can't use a prop in celebrations, what the charity is for, who, why, when, should be unimportant. You don't put things in based on charities, based on optics. You put them in so it's universally regarded that everybody, hold on. When he suspended Tom Brady, he said Tom Brady is not above the NFL. Everybody has to abide by the rules and regulations and guidelines of the NFL. Tom Brady falls up under that. But not this time. Zeke is outside of the...
It's very inconsistent, but...
Ain't no such thing. You can't say inconsistent in but.
Let's hear the but.
But Zeke donated $21,000 to the Salvation Army, and they have raised a lot of money since he's done this. So some good that came out of it. I know it's inconsistent, but they did raise a lot of money from it.
Smart kid.
They did raise a lot of
I think
money
it's up 170%.
They raised a lot of money from it.
Yeah, I got no problem.
Some good came out of it.
I got no problem with Zeke donating, but
I thought it was a natural reaction. We Buckeyes, we smart. Like that's a natural reaction.
No mercy. The Packers have won 4 in a row and are currently a game behind the Lions for first place in the NFC North. Aaron Rodgers has thrown 10 touchdown passes with 0 interceptions in the last 5 games. We're joined once again by Eric Mangini and Rob Parker. Rob, you can get it started again. Should Rodgers now be in the MVP conversation?
Skip Bayless, absolutely he should be in the MVP consideration for one reason only. He not only stood up and said to tell everybody to relax and that they could run the table and get there, he's led by example by his play. 10 touchdowns, 0 picks. He made the big play in Chicago. That could have been a terrible stinker to lose that game in a pressure situation. Throws a 60-yard pass, sets up the winning field goal and all that. And best of all, if you're like a Marriott shareholder, you're voting for him for MVP because the residents in Green Bay, Skip, the hotel room for the playoff, the wild card weekend, that room went from $104 to $459. So if you're a Marriott,
Wait, that closes the case.
There it is.
MVP. It's over.
Right there.
Drop the mic and get out of here.
They're telling you right there, they're banking on Aaron Rodgers because they believe what this guy has done will lead the Packers to another division title. This whole idea that the Lions, who haven't won a division title in 23 years, did you hear that? 23 years is going to beat Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers in a winner-take-all game. He should be MVP if he leads that team back after where they were with those 4 bad losses where they gave up 1 million points.
Where is that final game? Help me out.
It's in Detroit.
Thank you. And you tell me Detroit's terrible away, but they've been pretty good at home, haven't they?
Not against good teams, and I'll tell you, not against Aaron Rodgers in this situation.
So a team hasn't won you said they haven't won the division in 23 years?
The Lions.
So that means that they can't win it, right? So the Cubs probably should.
So it's over.
Oh, this is so you're equating the Lions to the Cubs now. Here we go.
I don't really see how.
Is that what you're telling me?
I'm just saying I don't really see how the historical data has any effect on this current year.
Well, because I've seen this movie. If you've watched the Detroit Lions over the last 20-some-odd years as I've covered them, I've seen these games.
Is Megatron in this movie this year?
No, he's not in the movie. He was edited out.
He was edited out. Thank you.
I think Aaron Rodgers should be in the discussion, and here's why.
Finally, you got one.
I do what I can. When you look at what he's done from a career perspective, his numbers aren't very far off from what he's had career-wise. And in the situation that he's been in, when there's really been no tangible running game, there's been no running threat, everybody who game plans for him game plans in a very specific way, and it's all designed to stop him, which makes it that much more difficult. You know, the defense has struggled at different points. And the thing that you see with Aaron Rodgers is everybody predicted the collapse of Green Bay, and he stayed steady. He's been consistent, and I think that has real value. And if you put other candidates that we've discussed on that Green Bay team, it's hard for me to imagine that they would have played much better than he's played to this point.
Even if Brady were on that team?
I think Brady would have a tough time on that team as well. I think they'd be similar to where he's been this season.
It depends. Would Brady have the defensive signals to help him along the way, or no?
Man, you already know. Like,
what's so great about Rob is at least he doesn't bring up the same jokes all the time. It's like dealing with your grandfather at Christmas. Did I ever tell you the one about the defense?
Yeah, you told Larry.
It's fantastic. I'm gonna kill with it today. Okay, change the tie and change the joke.
Change that tie.
I like your time.
Thank you.
Maybe
I
could just be jealous.
Absolutely, he should be in the MVP discussion. You look at he's 32 touchdowns, 7 INTs, and even in the losses, he'd thrown 14 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Mm-hmm. So even when he was going through that rough patch, not only he, but the Packers also was going through that rough patch. He wasn't playing like an all-time great player, but as I said before, only a handful of quarterbacks would not take his numbers. So you look at his body of work, he's the model of consistency, and he wasn't all-time great during that rough patch. But if you look at him, where he's brought this team back from, Jordy Nelson starting to look like Jordy Nelson. Adams starting to play like a number one receiver. He's playing well. They got Cook back. If he can stay on the field for any length of time, that also brought an added dimension. But I think the biggest thing that's really helped Aaron take off was Montgomery. Now they can run the football. When you can turn around and you don't have to just throw the ball 45 times a game with no threat of the running game, once you become one-dimensional, it's very hard, even for elite-level quarterbacks, to win in this league. And so once he got some resemblance of a run game, you saw the real Aaron Rodgers. But there's no question. He's on pace to throw for over 4,300 yards again. He's going to be somewhere around probably 36, 37 touchdowns with 7 INTs. That's going to get you into the MVP discussion every year. But right now, my MVP vote would go to Matt Ryan.
But he's in the discussion.
1,000%.
Joy, it's time for the correct answer to this question, and the correct answer is he should not be in the discussion.
Oh, why?
Because the body of Rob Rodgers here. That's an honor here from Rob Rodgers. For years, you have loved this guy. You have no objectivity. And
I have no objectivity.
The problem I have with Aaron Rodgers, he gets more passes than he throws. That's the truth. Because for some reason, the world loves Aaron Rodgers and wants to see Aaron Rodgers be Aaron Rodgers again. And you have gone back and forth all year. You were down on him. You kept saying, why does he get a pass when he's still got Jordy and he's still got Devontae?
Skip,
Did you not say that?
Skip. I've always said the problem that I had is that when he plays well, he's great. But when he doesn't play well, it's his receiver's fault. I never said he wasn't great. He's always been great. But I'm not giving him a pass. When they lose, he didn't play well. When they win, it's not his fault. He can't get all the credit and all the blame all the time.
Did he play well against Dallas at home? Lambeau Field.
But no,
Prescott, rookie quarterback.
No.
So you can just take chunks of the year and that counts for MVP. So you just dismiss when they were 4-6. Was anybody talking about MVP? Do those games count when they had their 6 losses in their first 10 games?
I thought it's not how you start, but how you finish. You mean to tell me that if he can run the table after that team was dead in the water, play as well as he's played, made a big throw in Chicago to win a key game, and he goes to Detroit and beats the Lions at Ford Field to win the division that the Lions had all year, you're going to sit here and tell me that the 4 games that they lost count more than the last 6?
Rob, I got this.
You don't got nothing.
Is Tom Brady in the MVP discussion?
Heck yes.
Oh, what about the 4 games he missed?
What about those 4?
What about the 4 games he missed?
What about the other games that he played to get them to 12-2?
I think he's in the MVP discussion, too. When I look at this whole discussion, I think, okay, if you take that player and put him on a different team, what would the effect be? Because that's really what we're saying is If you were having a draft, you would choose that player first. I think if you put Tom Brady in Green Bay, you'd have a chance to do some good things, similar to what Aaron Rodgers done. But you put Dak Prescott in Green Bay, and I think there's real problems. I think it's a totally different discussion.
He's a fourth-round rookie. You got to give him some break.
No, but
Tom Brady was a 6th round.
Yeah, well, I think he should have 5 rings. He's got 4, but he.
What you mean
What
he
about
should
his-
have?
Well, because David Tyree gets stuck in his face mask. Are you kidding
What
me?
about the Malcolm
Who's the
Butler?
luckiest player in the
What
history
about,
of the
what about
Super
they throw
Bowl?
the ball? What about they threw the ball in the one?
That one shouldn't count. The last Super Bowl.
Malcolm Butler.
That was the greatest defensive play I've
Oh,
ever
see,
seen.
now it's a great play with
Hey,
New England.
wait a second. Did Tom Brady not play the greatest fourth quarter we've ever seen in a Super Bowl against the Legion of Boom defense?
So now he played a
Remember
great
that?
fourth quarter.
Did he not?
No mercy. Last night, Kirk Cousins committed 2 turnovers in the Redskins' home loss to the Panthers. Cousins is now 13-1 in the last 2 seasons as the starter. Chris Carter is still with us. Chris, the Redskins will have to make a decision on Cousins this offseason. Would you give him a big contract?
I wouldn't give him a long-term contract. What I would do is I would franchise him again, because I think that if you look at the amount of money you're going to pay him over 2 seasons, somewhere between $17-20 million average, $34 to $40 million, I think it's a better buy compared to committing to him for over $100 million for 4 or 5 seasons. So for me, I think the best gamble, because you need him. You need him on your roster. There's not a way to be able to replace him. So I think that he has a very good rapport with Gruden. I think he's been very, very effective. He's had them in the divisional race the last 2 years. And if you look at the other quarterbacks in the league, you got Dak in Dallas, you got Eli. Philadelphia's got Carson. So you need someone to help stabilize the franchise. But for me, he's not outstanding enough for me to go ahead and make that 4 or 5 year commitment, which I believe is probably going to be somewhere between 80 to upwards of $120 million. So me, if it's my team, Joy, I franchise him another year to put it on a holding pattern. And then if he comes out, then I might sign him to another 3 or 4
Well, you have no
years.
choice. You have no choice. You have to let him go because you franchise him
Well,
twice.
I could live with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I could live with that.
Okay. Me, I think they need to go ahead and do it. They need to pay the guys money.
Do what?
They need to give him a long-term deal because I've seen enough. You franchised him last year because you thought last year was a fluke. And he's come back and he's putting up even better numbers than he did last year. Now, if you look at it, he's a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio guy. He's 2nd in pass yard, 3rd in pass attempts. He's 6th and 7th in QBR. He's 7th in QBR.
7th.
That should be good enough. Now, but here's the thing. Let's just say for the sake of argument, we know, nah, Kurt, but here's some of your options coming up for 2017. You could have Jay Cutler. You could have Ryan Fitzpatrick. You could have Colin Kaepernick. You could have Geno Smith. You could have Matt Castle. Or you could also have Mark Sanchez. Which one of the...
You might be able to have Tony Romo. You never know.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
All things being equal, would you rather take that? Now, I'm telling you what's going to happen. Now, I don't know Kurt. I met him last year at the Super Bowl, talked to he and his brother. Let me go and tell you what's going to happen. If they franchise him, he's showing up the day they play the first game. He's not coming to OTAs. He's not going to training camp.
Okay.
He's showing up.
Good.
So,
Good. Love it. Love it. Thank you.
I think they should. I think they should pay him because if you look at the game,
4 or 5 years,
he's
you're getting
been
ready to give him $120 million.
He's been in long term. They played Tannehill. They paid Cutler.
We're not talking about Tannehill. We talking about Washington, what they have going on, the situation.
With what they have, yes, absolutely, they should pay him. Absolutely.
Okay, so do you pay him and Deshaun Jackson? You let D-Jack go because he's a free agent too.
Well, you boxed yourself into this by franchising him because you thought the price was going to come down. See, hey, you know how you go shopping and you're like, hey, that's going to go on sale. That's going to go. You wait on it to go on sale, CC, and guess what? When they cut through that price, they put another price, but it's higher than the original price. And that's what happened with them. They was hoping he'd fall flat on his face because everybody, oh, that's a fluke. That was a one-time thing. Nobody knew what he could do. Now he broke his passing record from last year. He's on pace to throw for 5,000 yards. 5,000 yard passes don't come cheap.
Good. Love it. Shannon Sharpe, I hope you are so right. I hope they get stuck.
What
and
kind of
they
angle
say,
is this?
"Gee,
How we-
you know, what, you're about to hear it. You're about to hear it. because I hope those Washington Redskins pay him, would you say, $120 million for the next 5 years with $75 million guaranteed.
That's the bare
they are
minimum.
Stuck with Kirk Cousins for the next 5 years. And as a Dallas Cowboy fan since I was 10 years old and they were born, I want to face Kirk Cousins 10 times in the next 5 years, because every time Kirk Cousins plays against his arch rival, the Dallas Cowboys, he's not very good. He doesn't make plays. He can make a lot of throws because he can throw the heck out of it. Mike Shanahan knew that when he was in college, right? At Michigan State.
Yep.
He, in fact, the Washington Redskins have the second most passing yards in the National Football League right now to Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints.
And I think a lot of that is Jay Gruden, not
Maybe.
necessarily the quarterback,
Maybe.
because the way he designs things, the way he ran up stuff in Cincinnati.
I agree.
Giving Cousins all this credit. Go ahead,
So
Skip.
I'm going to tell you again, second in passing yards, but in red zone touchdown efficiency, in cashing that check when you get it inside the 20, the Redskins are 28th in the National Football League, and it cost them their turning point game of the year on Thanksgiving Day at my Dallas Cowboys when Kirk Cousins missed 3 big throws in the red zone. He went 2 for 5 in the red zone, while Dak Prescott went 4 for 4. Inside the 20, he cashed all 4 into touchdowns, and Dallas won that game 31-26. And I'm going to tell you again what happened in Washington. Turning point game of the year for Dak Prescott. They're 0-1. They lost the opener of the New York Giants. They're down 23-20 with 10 minutes left, and here comes Kirk Cousins, boom, 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 down the field, and he's got 3rd and goal from the 6, and if he cashes this in, it's going to be 30-20 Redskins. Tell me what's going to happen in that game. We are going to lose that football game. And Kirk Cousins throws it to Barry Church in the end zone. Didn't it look like he threw it right to him like that was his primary? Here, Barry, you can have this. And Dak goes the other way, 80 yards, and Dallas wins 27-23, and that started the 11-game win streak for the Dallas Cowboys. Last year, what happened with no Tony Romo? Dallas won 1 game out of the 11 with no Tony Romo. Where was it? It was at Washington against Kirk Cousins. Matt Castle beat Kirk Cousins. I can go back, and we don't have time. I can give you chapter and verse on all the Kirk Cousins games against Dallas. He's an underconfident overachiever who, when the money is on the line, he will not make that throw to win that game. He has to go to the media and say, you like that?
Yeah.
Because he has to.
How you like me now?
Yeah, how you like to the GM. he has to tell you. He has to tell you how good he is because he can't always show you how good he is, which is why it's a tough call for them because you're right.
It is
You're
a tough
stuck.
call.
You're stuck
Yes.
because he's pretty good, but he will always leave you a little frustrated because he won't win that game. When they got on a roll last year after they lost to Matt Castle at home and they stole that division, they backed into the division. What happened in that playoff game at home against Aaron Rodgers when Aaron Rodgers wasn't very good? Kirk Cousins turned right back into Kirk Cousins and couldn't make enough plays, and they lost a home playoff game. That's going to be the story of Kirk Cousins for the next 5 years if you give him that much money.
Now, I still think that he's a starting quarterback in the NFL, and I still think that he deserves a long time. But if I'm Washington, I'm very, very careful because I have seen what the $100 million, what it does to the franchise, the inability to maneuver with the salary cap. And I believe that there's a period of time, if they do franchise him, if he doesn't sign the tender, that you can negotiate a long-term contract. Right. Now, if he starts the season,
right.
So there is a period that you can hold him and sign him to a more favorable deal.
I'm with you. That's the way I would go. I would just say, okay, I'm going to close my eyes and do one more franchise. And to your point, he might just miss training camp.
Yeah.
But at least you have a pretty good quarterback for another year.
But that's what's handcuffing him. Because if you franchise him, that's $24 million. That's $24 million.
Yeah,
D-Jack is not coming back for less than 11. He's not coming back because he knows Philly wants him back, and they'll pay him 12.
Yeah, I think they've already started discussing.
Yeah. So,
well, I know that Skip is excited about everything he said, Shannon.
Let's
Way to go.
Let Skip
Love it.
tell it.
I love it.
He'll be
Since he
doing
was 10 years old. Since he was 10 years old.
No mercy. This is the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast, where we're delivering you an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the biggest topics of the day's show. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, like us on Facebook at Undisputed on FS1, follow on Twitter at Undisputed, and catch us at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, Monday through Friday on FS1. You can find us on channel 219 on DirecTV, 150 on Dish. That's it for us today. I'm your host, Joy Taylor. Come back for more debates tomorrow when we're joined by actors Cedric the Entertainer and Chris Carter comes back to join us. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Fox Sports, one of one.